Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, good night, good everything. So, this video is a follow up to the session or the previous video. I had a video about called Knowing When to Let Go. And I was asked a question, and I actually just saw the question like 10 minutes ago, so I'm wrapping my mind around the question. And the question was, how do you know when you're trying to force something? And here's my take on it. And I thought about something. I thought about a few years back, I was in a relationship with this guy, and he'll probably never see this video, whatever. But it was one of those situations where, you know how you start having birthdays, right? And you start thinking that, hey, I might need to get, if I don't get Mr. Right, maybe I'll get my Mr. Right now. And if I don't get the good one, maybe I'll get good enough. And so he was one of those ones that I felt like, okay, well, he has a job. He seems pretty faithful. I didn't think he would go out and step out on me or anything like that. And I didn't think, he was going to put his hands on me because I don't play games like that. So I said, well, at least he working and can pay some bills, and I won't be getting my butt kicked, and he won't be cheating on me. So I kind of just put everything else to the side because I had a few birthdays, and that all of my friends were getting married and everybody's having kids, and I was like, well, I need to at least get married even if I end up getting divorced, because my truth is I didn't even really like him like that. He was just a fairly safe option for me, if that makes sense. Compared to the others, I felt like at least certain things would be in place. But and the thing about it is, he kept making all these plans for us, y'all, and I wanted so desperately to want him. But I really believe that the Lord just never allowed my heart. I believe that the Lord turned my heart away from him. I don't want to say against him, but I feel like the Lord turned my heart away from him because he was not God's choice for me. But I remember one time, we just didn't get along, y'all. We just didn't get along. And I remember one time, he was telling me, because he had from day one, he was making plans for us to get married. I was going to be his wife, and I wanted to want it. Like, I was tired of dating, and I just said, okay, cool. We just going to make this work. And I remember, he was just telling me how much he loved me and all this other stuff. And my truth is, nothing in me believed him. Like, I believe that he wanted me. I believe that he wanted to be with me. But I don't believe that he had God's heart for me, if that makes sense. So I feel like maybe I was on the end of trying to force myself to want him. But it's a very real possibility that he saw a good woman and wanted a good woman and just wanted to make that work. So when we think about, how do we know if we're forcing something? I feel like we just know. I think we know when somebody's not good for us. But I also think that we have a tendency of being misled by our hearts. Because I feel like a lot of times we see people and we want to help them. I told you all, I have stayed in relationships because I felt bad for the person. That's a very poor excuse to be in a relationship with somebody. It didn't start off like that, but I was in a relationship and I knew it wasn't going to work, but you know, at the time they had so many other issues going on. I didn't want to be, you know, somebody else that caused them harm or caused them pain, so I stuck it out. And I was miserable. And I've trained myself at this point. I have trained myself to stop doing that. I'm like, look, you are not about to be with somebody just because you feel sorry for him or you want to help him or you have compassion for him or any reason. At this point in my life, I'm just trying to be with who God wants me to be with. I feel like something in you knows, because I'm sorry. I thank God that I have really good friends in my relationship. I mean, in my life that have good, positive, strong, solid relationships. So I can see that. So I know that it's possible. So when you look at, you know, the relationship that you're in, not that you're comparing, but if you have somebody, and this can go both ways, you all, because women, y'all know sometimes we'll trip too, and sometimes we hold guys we don't want, because I've done it. And sometimes we hold them for the wrong reasons, and sometimes it's because we don't want to be by ourselves, or maybe somehow you're benefiting from it. You know, but it's not from a totally honest place. I've been there. But I feel like when a grown man, like my dad was a grown man. I've seen grown men operate, so I know how grown men do things. When a grown man wants you, a grown man is going to put his pride and his ego down to get you. A grown man does not play games. A grown man is not going to, you know, have you waiting and on standby, or only engage with you or interact with you when it's convenient for him. Because a grown man is going to do whatever it takes to get you. Because when you look at them, like I'll tell people, if I'm in a relationship with somebody and I see that you are going above and beyond on your job, and that you are doing everything you can to do right by your employer, and let's suppose you have children, and I see that you will hang the moon for your kids, and you are doing everything that it takes for your children, you should. But now that I know it's in you to do right by anything, and then you come and get me, and then you decide to give me what you want me to have or what's left, that doesn't work. That doesn't work, because you have proven to me that all the things that you care about, you are going to go the distance for. You have shown me that anything that means something to you, or anybody that means something to you, you are going to give them 100%. So if you get to me and decide that you're going to give me 30 or 40 or 50 or none, and I still allow myself to be in that, because I'm thinking that at some point you are going to see me the same as you see the other people that you're doing right by, there's a great chance that I'm forcing it to work. Women, and I'm talking to my ladies, because it was a young lady who asked me the question, how do we know when we're forcing things? I honestly believe this. When you know without a shadow of a doubt that God has placed a gift in you, when you know without a shadow of a doubt that who you are called to be requires you to be in a position to be a kingdom builder, that you are going to somehow contribute to what God is doing in the earth, you have to be so guarded and so protective of your gift, which means that whoever you end up with, they're going to have to be in a position, they're going to have to be, number one, solid enough in Christ to cover you. They got to be grounded in the word enough to properly cover you as a man, as the head. But they also need to have shoulders that are broad enough spiritually to carry you. And if you know that I'm looking at you and I like you, you cute, you know, you're nice looking, you my speed, y'all. I told y'all I had a couple of them. Y'all was like, they was my speed. Like, I was like, yeah. But I had to one day confront myself and say, let's be clear. You know, let's be honest. Be honest with yourself. Knowing what God has shown you, the plan that he has for your life. Can you, not if he changes, because we hold on to people assuming that one day they'll change. That's not, most of the time, that's not even true, because the reality of it is, most of the time, unless somebody intentionally decides to change, they're just going to be an older version of who they have always been. So most of the time, they don't change. So what I have to do is I have to look at the relationship and say, as is, like those cars, as is, can he go with you? Like, for real. Because if you take him with you, the weight of who God called you to be is going to crush him. And that's not fair to him. Now, if God, you know, I tell people sometimes God separates relationships for a season. You know, I've heard of people being together and they go their separate ways, and then God does whatever work he needs to do and he brings them back together, because every now and then people meet prematurely. If that's the case, the key to, just like Jacob and Esau had to go their separate ways. They were brothers. They had to go their separate ways, but it was during the separation that God did the building. Sometimes God will separate us for a season, and sometimes he will separate you from that relationship permanently. But you have to let him choose that. Because I told y'all in another video, I've let go of relationship dose that I wanted to keep. If God chooses for whatever reason to bring any of it back, it's a choice that he made. But I honestly can say that I officially let go. And I said, Lord, whatever you choose to let come from this, it's up to you. Because what I don't want to do is hold on to somebody that's not mine. Because that means that I'm getting in his way and he's getting in mine. I don't want to hold on to somebody because God's not going to give me somebody else when I got somebody. So I got to stay the course. And sometimes it requires you to just get along. And one thing, you know, I see all the time, because I read a lot of comments, not necessarily on my videos. Sometimes you all leave me comments, but I don't know how to, like, make them public. So, I'm sorry. But, you know, sometimes I read comments and usually it's us. Every now and then you'll see a guy say it. Not to say they don't feel it, but they don't admit it as much as we do. But you'll hear one of us, a female, will say, you know I need to let go, but it's so hard. I want to let them go, but it hurts. I mean, let's think about this. Chances are, if it's something, let me tell you something. So far, I've never let go of anything that wasn't hurting me. Like while I was in it. So far, I haven't let go of anything that wasn't hurting me. So in my mind, this is how I process things. And this is probably why I can let people go. If if it's hurting me to be with you, pain is pain. If you hurting me being there, if I'm going to get hurt, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to let you do it. I'd much rather let you go and start healing than keep you and being repeatedly injured. Because the relationships that I've had to get out of were ones that I was being repeatedly injured. And it wasn't physical, you all, because I told y'all before, I got a Lifetime movie in me, so I really thank God that he has not allowed anybody to put me in that situation. Kind of almost one time, but I ain't finna say that on him, because, you know, I can't be going to jail. But emotional, because people can be emotionally abusive and not realize it. You know, when you have somebody who's playing games, I'm so grown. You still playing games. You're not telling me the truth. You got a twisted version of the truth, or you omitting information, or some days I see you, some days I don't. One day you want to be with me, one day you don't. I told you I don't do the silent treatment things. If you just start doing things to me over and over again, especially those things that I've asked you not to do, in my mind, that's emotional abuse, and there's intent behind it. So if staying with you is causing repeated injuries, I gotta let you go. I gotta let you go, because the way my life's set up, I'm not trying to walk around being injured over and over again by anybody. Because, as I told you, go back to what I said in the beginning. Because if I'm looking at you and I'm following how careful you are at work, and I'm following how careful you are with your children, and I'm following how careful you are with your mother and maybe your sisters, and then you get to me and decide that you and decide that you get to be careless, you've already let me know how you see me. And now that I know how you see me, I have to make a conscious decision that maybe, just maybe, you ain't him. You ain't him. And I don't believe in wasting time, y'all. Because when you a boyfriend or a girlfriend, even if you've been with somebody 2-3 years, yeah, it's going to hurt. Either way, it's going to hurt. Letting somebody go. We get used to people. You know, I had my nephew out here one summer. I got used to him being here with me. When I took him back home, I was like, I called him. I dropped him off and then I flew back because we flew there. Well, I drove to pick him up, and then he never been on the plane, and he was scared to get on the plane, so I made him get on the plane to take him back, and then I flew back, and I landed, and then it's so funny, because I think we were just used to each other, because that evening we ended up on the phone. What you doing? What you doing? What you ate? What you ate? What you did today? Because I had gotten so used to him being there, so that's normal. We adjust very quickly, but that goes both ways. Because the same way you adjusted with that person is the same way you actually can adjust without that person. I told you all, I just stay busy. Not busy so that I won't think about them, but busy so that I won't be consumed by them, and I don't allow myself to miss their presence. Because if you're honest, half the time they're not there anyway. They're there when they want to be there. So if you want to ask yourself, how do you know when you are, trying to force something to be something that is not? I think asking the question alone already told you the answer. So now what you have to decide is how long I'm going to hold on to something that's not mine to have. Because ultimately, what you want is, you want God's choice. We want God's choice, because either way, a relationship, a marriage will always have its struggles. But I believe that it's a different type of struggle when you're struggling with something that actually belongs to you. Like, it's a whole different fight when you fighting for something that's yours. So we have to always put ourselves in a position to trust God enough to let go of those things that don't belong to us. Okay? So hopefully in the midst of everything that I've said, I've answered the question. But I think we know. We always know. The problem isn't whether or not we know. The problem is what we're going to do with the information that we have. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next video. Bye-bye.